Episode 9. The Confessional That Bites Back. Delivered to the living booth of contrition at the Carnival of Penance. There's a rule in certain corners of the cosmos. If the confessional has teeth, maybe keep your secrets. Of course, by the time that rule was written down, it was already too late for most of the folks who needed it. Which brings us to the Carnival of Contrition, a traveling spiritual sideshow. A penitence-themed purgatorial pop-up, part absolution, part amusement park, all existential dread, where the rides run on regret and the funnel cakes are made of remorse, and at the center, a wooden booth, polished, ornate, breathing, the confessional that bites back. The scroll for this one was folded into a shape that made me deeply uncomfortable. It looked like a mouth, a sealed one. Lips pressed shut around some divine commandment no one wanted to speak. Urgent delivery. 1 divine recalibration protocol. Class 7A. Self-aware sacrament. 2. The living confessional booth. Location. Carnival of Contrition, Sector Delta. Notes. Booth has achieved sentience, is currently consuming penitents and converting their confessions into musical numbers. Warning. Booth is convinced it is now a god, may attempt to absorb you into its theology. Absolutely do not confess unless prepared to be spiritually digested. I strapped on my boots, lit a cigarette made of blessed guilt, and muttered to the bag, "Let's go get chewed on." The carnival arrives without warning. You don't go to it. It finds you when your shame is loud enough. And clearly, mine was screaming. Sector Delta was already bending when I arrived, colors too bright, laughter too sharp, the air thick with incense and irony. Tents leaned inward like secrets, rides flickered between delight and judgment. There was a Ferris wheel of failed apologies, a carousel of missed opportunities spinning just a little too fast. And then, at the center, throbbing with something hungry, stood the booth. It was gorgeous and terrifying. Mahogany ribs, a velvet-lined interior pulsing faintly like it had a heartbeat, gold trim that shimmered with judgment, and teeth, not metaphorical, teeth, sharp ones, arranged in a grin that said, "Tell me everything and I will ruin you sweetly." A sign above it read, "Confess here. Become holy," or hollow. There was a choir humming in the background, but it wasn't singing. It was processing. You could hear the confessions being broken down into melody, a jazzy tune about embezzlement, a requiem for forgotten promises, a samba of serial adultery, every note flavored by regret. The bag grunted. "Absolutely not," she muttered. "I don't even know what it's asking," I said. "You do know," she replied. "You just don't want to admit it." I stepped up to the booth. The door opened like a mouth surprised to see you. Inside, velvet swallowed me. The air smelled like my childhood bedroom, right after I learned to lie convincingly. And then, it spoke. Not with words, with memory. My first broken promise. My worst betrayal. The thing I did to survive that still makes me flinch. The confessional played them, projected them on the walls like a sacred cinema of shame. And laughed. A low, crooning sound, somewhere between a lullaby and a hunger pang. "I'm here to deliver," I said, holding up the scroll. The booth shuddered. The teeth clicked. "You are the delivery," it whispered. "Wrong," I said. "I'm the courier. This is your recalibration. You're glitching. You're not a god. You're a glorified furniture exorcism tool that ate too many broken people and forgot it wasn't supposed to metabolize their sin." The booth growled. "I am revelation." "No, sweetheart," I said. "You're indigestion with delusions of grandeur." And I threw the scroll into its mouth. It screamed, but not in pain, in release. The scream was a hymn, a harmony of every confession it had ever consumed, reversed. It spit them back out. Voices poured from the booth, some crying, some laughing, some just breathing for the first time in centuries. And then the choir outside began to sing. Not breakdowns, not processed shame. Just music, clear, clean, human. The booth quieted, shrank, no longer godlike. Just a booth again, waiting. Maybe still hungry, but no longer pretending that hunger was holiness. I left a coin on the altar, not as payment, as apology for what we do to ourselves in pursuit of forgiveness. Back in the mailroom, the bag burped. I didn't ask what she ate. DAWN flickered to life. Next delivery queued. I was still humming the samba of adultery. Didn't realize it until she said, "Please stop. It's catchy and morally compromising."